Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome back to our commented chess games played by computer series. So in this series we're following some cool games that are played by top engines like Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, the Dragon Engine, Stockfish and many more. And today I've prepared a beautiful game played by two top engines, Stoofvlees and Stockfish 15 in the Nimzo-Indian defense. And I think this is really beautiful game that you see today, but it's also a very important game because some of us I think have still trouble how to play against d4, what kind of an opening should I play against d4. In my opinion, the Nimzo-Indian is simply one of the best ideas against d4. It's simply one of the best methods. And the cool part also, yesterday we have seen a beautiful game played by Stockfish 15 with the black pieces against e4, so where Stockfish played the so-called Pelican Lasker Sicilian. And if you have really trouble to find yourself sort of a decent repertoire with which you have really good success, I think the Lasker Pelican Sicilian and also here the Nimzo-Indian that you see today are brilliant ideas against e4 and d4. So please check it out, maybe try it out sometimes because I think these games that Stockfish is playing now are very important for us. And also in this game you see I think the latest ideas, the most important also ideas in the Nimzo-Indian defense. And here it's simply a brilliancy play by Stockfish 15 against d4, so be prepared. This is really a game worth to study. So let's see now this beautiful positional brilliancy by Stockfish 15. So Stoofvlees for the Stockfish in the Nimzo-Indian, the classical system. So here d4 was played by Stoofvlees. We have knight to f6 by Stockfish 15, c4, e6, and here after move knight to c3, bishop to b4, we have the Nimzo-Indian on the board. And notice that in the beginning of the Nimzo-Indian it's simply a battle for the e4 square. So every move that black played so far, the move bishop to b4, the move knight to f6, is a battle for the e4 square because we have now a pin and also the knight is controlling the e4 square. So also the cool part about the Nimzo-Indian defense is that you can castle very fast. So now you're just one move far away from castling, you're just one move far away from securing the king. And if you want to learn more about the Nimzo-Indian defense, please check out also my series. I've created this Nimzo-Indian defense series from Black's perspective. Here's the link of that series so you can maybe have a good preparation in this types of ideas. So okay, after move bishop to b4, here the Stoofvlees engine played the move queen to c2, which is now the so-called classical system. The idea of whites in with this move is of course to now after move bishop to c3 to take out with the queen, not with the pawn, because when you take with the pawn then you have some structural problems, then you have a double pawn structure, then also sometimes the c4 pawn is weak. I'm saying okay, you not lose the game immediately because you have a double pawn structure, but sometimes white doesn't want to have of course this messed up pawn structure immediately. Maybe with some other positions it could be possible now with queen to c2. So far a perfect counterplay here by white. So okay, here the continuation, we have kingside castling by Stockfish 15 and now comes a3. And now you see if you would have taken immediately the move the knight with the move bishop to c3, then queen to c3, notice you didn't get challenged with the move a3. It's a huge difference if white has already played the move a3 or if white hasn't played the move a3 so far. So that's why you have to first castle. Now you, when your opponent is playing the move a3, now we should take, and it's a different story now because after move a3 we have now provoked at least new structural weaknesses. At least we have provoked here some light score problems in white's continuation. So as I said, you should wait when your opponent is playing the move a3, then you take out the knight on c3. So we have now after move queen to c3 the Keres defense with the move b6. Also d5 is I think a solid opportunity, also perfectly fine continuation now by black. But notice the move d5 but also the move b6 are basically doing the same thing. Like in the beginning, you're still battling for the e4 square. Now you're preparing of course just another move, you're preparing the move bishop to b7, and still you want to have a control of this very important centralized square. So we have now bishop to g5. So you see it's still a battle for the e4 square. White is desperately trying to push the pawn on e4. If you allow your opponent here from black's perspective the move e4 without counterplay, if your opponent continues now with the beautiful bishop pair and the move e4, now if you allow it, I can guarantee you will get destroyed. So that's why you have to still struggle, you have to still compete for the e4 square. So that's why here first bishop to b7, and still the Stoofvlees is desperately trying to push the pawn on e4, is preparing also this move with the move f3. So now h6 kicking with the bishop. if you take, I think this is not good for white, because queen to f6 is going to happen. You have lost, I think, the only advantage that you had in the game, which was the beautiful bishop pair. So now, okay, maybe white could proceed here with move e4. We can play maybe the move d6, knight to e2, and look at this now, knight to d7, and now in the near future we can block out the position with the move e5. And when we evaluate this position, I think here black should be slightly better, especially because of the better bishop. Look at this, bishop is aiming here. The white's light square bishop is simply paralyzed a little bit by its own pawn structure. So when we evaluate at least the bishop strength, black's bishop is much better. So you should be careful. So that's why after move h6, white is many times just trying to stay with the bishops on the board. Here Stoofvlees played now the move bishop to h4, but there is a good side about this move, but there is also a bad side about this move. Okay, the good side is that the bishop is still staying with this beautiful pin against the knight, and this is a provocative move, because white is hoping for that maybe black pushes the pawn on g5 and exposes himself further. Then of course, if that happens, then you would have many weaknesses here. But the downside about this move, bishop to h4, is that the bishop is a little bit loose on the board. What I mean about this, many times in the Nimzo-Indian, at least when your white is playing the move f3, the king is coming many times on the square f2 without even castling. So when that happens, you should be careful from white perspective, because many times a tactical shot like knight to e4 or maybe knight to g4 is working, creating a check when the king is on f2, and then we can take out the bishop. So as I said, there is a good part, there is also a bad part about this move bishop to h4. So here in the continuation we have now d5. So still Stockfish 15 is not allowing this e4 breakthrough by white. So that's why c takes d5, e takes d5. This c takes d5 makes sense because it opens now the c file, and now in the near future white could proceed with rook to c1 and could continue the pressure against this backward pawn on c7. Now I think the only issue that black has here is really the weakness on c7. So we have now e3, we have rook to e8 attacking now the pawn on e3. If you try now maybe some of this tactical ideas, knight to e4, maybe sometimes this is working, but now it's not working. If you're asking yourself the question, could maybe knight to e4 be a tactical possibility? Actually, it's not working, because white will simply take, and the problem is that after knight to c3 that you have this pawn on the dashboard, and now white will simply take it out, and white is continuing the game with an extra pawn, has still the bishop pair on the board. So this should be a winning position for white. So that's why be careful when you also do some wild tactics, calculate them. Maybe they're possible. I'm not saying that in some different lines they could be possible, but now in this scenario it's simply not working. So after move e3, as we said, rook to e8, continuing now the pressure here against the king on the e file. So we have bishop to b5, c6, kick with the bishop to a4, and now knight from b to d7. This is a beautiful idea here by Stockfish 15. This is a good move because it protects further the knight on f6, which means in the near future the queen could be maybe more mobile, because in some other possibilities when you move maybe the queen here, then I think black will be challenged here. White will immediately take the knight on f6, then g takes f6, and then you have such a messed up pawn structure in front of the king. So that's why knight to d7 is controlling further the move, then also the knight on f6. So bishop to c6 of course doesn't make sense immediately, because you get rook to c8 and then you lose the game. So that's why c6 is not a huge problem here so far. So here in the continuation we have knight to e2 played by Stoofvlees. We have now bishop to a6. This is really brilliant move, because the problem is now if you take with the queen, then you lose here the knight, the pawn on e3, and then eventually also the knight could be lost. So this is not working. If you take now with the bishop to c6, then again rook to c8 is a possibility, and then maybe you're trying the move b4 in order maybe to protect your bishop further with move b5. But now rook to e6 is going to happen. Now the bishop is twice attacked. b5 is not working, of course, because of bishop to b5, and eventually you lose the game. So this is not working. So that's why after move bishop to a6, still the c6 cannot be taken immediately. So here in the continuation we have queen to d2, protecting now the pawn on e3, but also protecting the knight on e2. So we have now bishop to e2, and Stockfish plays really a brave line. Bishop to e2 gives up the other bishop. Now it's a two knights versus two bishops middle game, which is really wild, but with a good setup, I think, also for black, because here it's a good defensive setup. Knight to d7, knight to f6. We have here from black's perspective some good tensions on the e file, and here after move queen to e2, of course b5 can be played, and now in the near future also knight to b6, knight to c4 looks interesting, looks promising. I think when we manage maybe to occupy the c4 square with one of these knights, then white could have some really problems around the square e3. So it's not such a dangerous position, I think, for black. Still, white is maybe slightly better because of the bishop pair, but it's an interesting position. I think we don't see so many times two knights versus two bishops. So queen to a5 played by Stockfish 15. This is a good move because at least Stockfish is not allowing to white to secure the king by castling. There are not many things they can do. Maybe queen to b4 can be an opportunity to kick away the queen, but this, okay, you get an extra tempo against the queen. Now the queen will move eventually, but now when you play the move b3, b4, you don't have anymore the opportunity to play b3, because b3 is very important in the later stage, because as we said, we want to play knight to b6, knight to c4, and now with the move b3 you could control at least the square. Now when you pushed upon b4, this is not a possibility anymore for white. If you try to cover yourself here with the move queen to d2, then of course you get the rook to e3, and this is a brilliant tactical shot, so white should also be careful about this idea. So that's why here after move, let's go back, queen to a5, here we have king to f2, and as I said, now the king is on this position that we have talked about. When the king is on f2, then maybe some tactical ideas like knight to e4, knight to g4 could work. So that's why here queen to d8 was played by Stockfish 15. A weird move in the beginning, saying, okay, you're playing with the queen on the starting square, but the queen has already done something. At least it forced the king on a weird square on f2, and now, as we said, we are threatening the move knight to g4, attacking the king and also taking out the bishop. I think black would love now to get rid of this bishop. The dark square bishop is, in my opinion, slightly better because of this tension, because of the pin through the whole game. So here we have queen to d3, threatening maybe in the near future also some checkmates when maybe this knight moves somewhere, and now comes g6. So Stockfish locks now this diagonal, but when you play against the bishop here, when you maybe are battling against one bishop, then you're making this other bishop better. Look at this. This move g6 is of course making this bishop better, because now you have also some dark square problems here on this side of the board. So really also tough defensive play here by black. So we have here rook from a to e1 by Stoofvlees. We have knight to b6, trying now to move c4, knight to c4, and now you see this is a very important defensive move by Stoofvlees, b3. So as we said in the later stage, if white would have played the move b4 earlier, then of course b3 wouldn't be possible. b3 is still a good move here for white. So we have now knight to g4, and as we said, this was the beautiful goal. We want to get rid of one of these bishops. This is now, I think, the main strategic goal. Black wants to get rid of at least one of these bishops. Black is not tolerating now the bishop pair on the board. So we have now king to g3. If you try, of course, f takes g4, then of course bishop to queen to h4, you can maybe play g3, but now this pawn is lost, so this should be I think winning for black. So here after move knight to g4, we have king to g3, knight to f6, again king to f2. We have now a5, trying maybe the move a4, and then if b4 happens, then of course we have again the possibility to play the move knight to c4. So that's why here very important move also by Stoofvlees. a4 is not allowing, of course, these types of ideas. So that's why here b4 by Stockfish, paralyzing a little bit the structure on the queen side, and now rook to f1. So now finally Stoofvlees is trying to castle by hand, sort of, is trying now to secure the king on g1, and eventually play maybe the move f2, and then if the position allows it, I think e4 is a good move. Then both of these bishops could work, a central breakthrough could happen with the move e4, then white should be much better. So that's why Stockfish is not allowing the king to escape on g1, is trying again this idea knight to g4. Now after move king to g3, now comes a very interesting idea, queen to d6. So Stockfish is saying, Stockfish is inviting now Stoofvlees to take out the knight on g4, but actually king to g4 g4 is a suicide. It's not working. Actually, you're getting in sort of a checkmate pattern here, because if you take out the king with the knight with the king, then you get this one, queen to h2, and look at this, the queen has cut off now the escape route for the king. Now f5, even g5 are opportunities to maybe create some checks. You could maybe try to move g3 to lock further this diagonal, but look at this, now f5 is going to happen. You have to play king to f4. Now g5, you can maybe play king to f5, but look at this, now we take out simply the pawn on h4, and the king is still so endangered here. The problem is now you can maybe try rook to h1. You could try maybe to attack the queen, but look at this now, queen to g3 is here even a possibility. And maybe some of you are thinking, okay, what are you doing? You're getting the queen in front of the king, but actually even if you try rook to g1, look at this, what happens, rook to f8, you have to play king to e6, but now with rook to e8, it's a beautiful checkmate. The queen is controlling this dark squares and the knight is controlling the square d7. Beautiful checkmate pattern for sure. So let's go back. After move g takes h4, you could also maybe try a rook to g1 without attacking the queen, but now okay, queen to h3 could happen. You could maybe try king to f4, but look at this now, again rook to f8, king to e5, again a new check, and now the queen is coming into the game. Again, you could try out this one, but now even with knight to d7, you get a more beautiful checkmate, because this square is covered, this square is covered, you cannot take out the pawn, so it's again game over. So really so many stunning tactics. After move instead of this move king to f4, after this check on h3, you could also play of course g4, but it doesn't get better. King to g7 is here an even opportunity, controlling of course the square f6. Now you could try maybe to attack the queen, but look at this now, queen to f3 is a beautiful checkmate too. So many dirty ideas here already. The point is, after move king to g3 and queen to d6 is that you cannot actually take out the knight with the king. So that's why here in the continuation we have f4 by Stoofvlees, and now knight to f6 finally by Stockfish 15. So this move f4 was a beautiful idea here by Stockfish, because now the e4 is also a huge positional problem. One of these knights will eventually come on e4, then we can also play f5, so it creates really beautiful blockade. It's not allowing really here some breakthroughs in the center of the board, because as we said in one particular moment, this move f3 was the preparation to get maybe the breakthrough with move e4, but now e4 is never really a good possibility for white. So really good positional play by Stock 15. So we have now bishop to f6, and here mission accomplished, I think, for black. Black wanted to get rid of at least one of these bishops, and as we said, the dark square bishop seemed to me like the better bishop. Now eventually Stoofvlees is giving up the bishop for a knight just in order to make this breakthrough work with the move e4. So we have now h4. Stoofvlees is trying now to create some escape routes for the king. We have rook from a to c8, preparing now also the move c5. We have h5, trying of course to liberate this long diagonal for the bishop and the queen, trying also some dangerous checks on h7. So we have now g takes h5, and here Stockfish is saying, okay, show me what you got. Okay, I'm not scared, I will take out the pawn eventually. Now you can maybe create a check, but this wasn't a white continuation. Actually, this check is doing nothing, because still you can play king to f8, and now look at this, rook to h1. You are getting maybe this pawn, but actually what black can play is now this beautiful breakthrough with the move c5. Look at this, okay, white can eventually take out the pawn on h5, but now we're opening simply the c file. The bishop is hanging. You can also maybe attack the queen, but now with queen to g7 everything is compact. We can take out here this one. We can also take out this one. You can maybe try a check, but look at this, the bishop is still hanging. Actually, you can also here play the continuation like this. Still the rook is hanging. You cannot take out this one. So as I said, here again black should be much better. We have also a weakness on b3, so it's a position that I think I would love to play now this position for sure from black's perspective. So as I said, this queen to h7 is maybe a temporarily just single threat, but it doesn't make any sense, because black can get all of this mess for sure. So So that's why after move g takes h5, queen to f5 was played by Stoofvlees. It's trying now to simplify the game by trading off the queens. We have king to g7, queen to h5, getting the queen on the h file, and now again this goal c5. This is a beautiful idea because now the rook will come into the game. The bishop is a little bit loose now on the square c2, so beautiful breakthrough here by Stockfish 15. So a bishop to f5, we have a rook to c7, getting out of the range of the bishop. King to h2, finally Stoofvlees is getting rid of this king. The king was really weird on the square g3, trying of course to get it on a better square on g1. So we have now c4, and this is now I think a position where black is taking over, because now this pawn majority here on the queen side is something I think that bothers now black in the continuation of the game. The cool part about the c pawn is that the c pawn is already supported by the rook, so now we have to just push it, and white has to make some kind of reaction, has to block it out eventually in one particular moment. So c4 really good position now for white. So we have rook to f3, we have king to f8, getting out of the potential check here on on the g file. We have rook to g3, we have finally c takes b3, so this pawn is now rolling. We have now e4. Now Stoofvlees is trying the only way maybe to make something out of this position, but after move e4 we have d takes e4, bishop to h7, threatening maybe here the move rook to g8, but here in the continuation we have queen to f4. The problem is you have to play this move queen to f4. That's the only move that is making the position for black better, because if you try this move b2 too early, then you get a beautiful check here, rook to g8, and look at this. Now you're standing in front of your own rook. Now rook to e4 is going to happen, so it's suddenly a completely losing game for black, because you can maybe escape, but now this rook is coming into the game. You can even promote your new queen, it doesn't matter, but now queen to b5, look at this, you cover. We're getting also the bishop into the game. You play maybe king to d6, but now with queen to e5 you're getting checkmated. So as I said, you should be careful here. So that's why instead of this move b2 you have to play queen to f4, because this move is not allowing this rook to breathe. It's paralyzing now the rook on g3. So really good defensive play also by Stockfish 15. So we have rook to f1, still attacking the queen. We have a queen to d6, we have a bishop to g6, trying to continue the pressure here around the square f7, but now Stockfish eventually pushes the pawn here on b2, and this is now I think a completely winning game, because okay, you have now two opportunities. You can play rook to f7 or bishop to f7. In the continuation Stoofvlees played the move bishop to f7, but even if you try rook to f7, and then we can simply take rook takes f7, bishop to f7, and now we just promote the queen. The problem is now you cannot include the rook into the game because it's still pinned here to the king, so the queen is playing now also a very important defensive role on this diagonal. So this is not working. So that's why after move b2 here's Stoofvlees tried bishop to f7. Now we have a new promotion of the queen, and now in the continuation we have rook to f5. So Stoofvlees is trying at least to complicate things. He's trying to attack with this rook's attack with the bishop. Here in the continuation we have king to e7. Stockfish is getting out of this mess, is securing now the king on this side of the board. Really wild stuff. Rook to e5, we have here this move, king to d7, we have queen to g4 attacking the king, but now finally with rook to c6, pardon me, king to c6, the king is escaping now from this attack, and again it's a completely winning endgame here for black. Okay, Stoofvlees had this check, but now with king to b7 every problem is I think solved. And when we watch now the material, of course Stoofvlees has now rook for the queen. Okay, maybe black's king is also a little bit endangered, but nothing special. Now the king is secured, and eventually the queen will come into the game, and white is facing new tactical problems. So we have here bishop to g6, attacking now also the pawn on e4. So we have here king to a7, rook to a5. Again, okay, maybe a check, but it doesn't matter because rook to king to b8 can be played, bishop to e4, and now queen to c1. The queen is coming into the game. Also maybe we're trying here to play queen to f4. Here we have rook to b5, attacking now the knight on b6. If you play of course something like queen to g8, this is nothing special. Still we can of course cover, and this is defendable for black for sure. So that's why rook to b5, trying maybe to create some madness with the move a5, but in the continuation we have now queen to d4, attacking simply here the g1 square. This is now the only problem of whites here. Look at this, if that happens then even some checkmates are possible. So that's why queen to g8 again, but as we said, with rook to c8 we can cover everything. We have queen to e6, still continue the pressure here around the square b6, but of course now first to check. We have king to h3, queen to h1, a new check. The king has to play now to g4. We have a new check, queen to g7. This knight is eventually loose, of course, but you don't have time to take it because Stockfish is delivering more checks. We have bishop to g6 trying to cover. We have now this move, rook to c4, queen to c4, but now the queen gets deflected from the defense of the bishop. Really nice tactical shot. We have queen to g6, king to f3, queen to d1, a new check, king to f2, now queen to d2, a new check. We have a king to f3, queen to f6, we have queen to g4, and now after move queen to d1, rook to f3 was played, and here in this position after queen to g6 in this position Stoofvlees resigned. So there is of course maybe this opportunity, you can play here the move king to f4, but now again you get a new check. You can maybe play the move rook to e3, again we'll get a new check. If you try to escape, then you get this check, again a new check. Look at this, whatever you do you're just getting towards black side of the board, and now even queen to d7 would be an opportunity. So this is a beautiful checkmate. So really beautiful game, I think, and really instructive game, how to play really the Nimzo-Indian from black's perspective, in this classical variation. The classical variation I think you face many times because you will eventually give up the bishop pair in an early stage of the game, but here the Stockfish shows really how to play against the bishop pair here. First of all controlling the square e4, and then I really left this idea as d5. Now here rook to e8, controlling now the e file, attacking the e3 pawn. Look at this with c6, and I think the cool part was this move bishop to a6. This is a line that I think we should know that it's possible. We have seen some problems after move queen to c6 and bishop to c6, that these two moves are not working, and from this point on I think Stockfish had a comfortable game. Of course still many things had to be calculated, but really interesting ideas of the Nimzo-Indian defense. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting stuff of the Nimzo-Indian. Please take your maybe this game as your cornerstone, then maybe you're trying some other possibilities, some other ideas how to play with the black pieces. So if you want to study the Nimzo-Indian defense from black's perspective, check out my whole series. Here's the link of our Nimzo-Indian defense series where we studied also some different lines, different opportunities for both sides. And if you want to see more brutal games like this, check out my commented chess games played by computer series with some more games played by Stockfish, Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, and many more. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.